Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Balaba Giridhari Jaya Jasodanandana Braja Janadandana Yasodanandana Braja Janadandana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balaba Giridhari Gopijana Balaba Giridhari Yasodanandana Braja Janadandana Yasodanandana Braja Janadandana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopijana Balaba Giridhari Yasodanandana Braja Janadandana Sodanandana Braja Janadandana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Vallabha, Radha Vallabha Shri Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauranidhai, 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 Jaya Gauranidhai. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Vishnu Bhat Paramahansa Sri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Radha Vallabha ki jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki jai. Shri Gaunidhai ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we're reading from the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 18, Text 50. No chistas prishta salila Sanyayam mukta murdaja Anachita samyatavak Na samvita bahischare No chita sprishta salila Sanyayam mukta murdaja Anachita samyatavak Na samvita bahischare No chita sprishta salila Sanyaya mukta murdaja Anachita samyatava Na samvita bahischare. Someone else? No tishta sprishta salila Anachita samyatabak Na samvita bahishcharet. Vaishnavi? Notishta sprishta salila. Sanjaya mukta murdaja. Anachitat samyatava. Na samvita bahishcharet. Notishta sprishta salila. Sajaya mukta murdaja. Anachita samyatava. Na samvita bahishcharet. Na, not. Uchishta, after eating. Asprishta salila, without washing. Sanjayam, in the evening. Mukta murdaja, with the hair loose. Anachita, without ornaments. Asamyatavak, without being grave. Na, not. Asamvita, without being covered. Bahi, outside. Charet, should go. Translation: after eating, you should not go out to the street without having washed your mouth, hands and feet. You should not go out in the evening or with your hair loose, nor should you go out unless you are properly decorated with ornaments. You should not leave the house unless you are very grave and sufficiently covered. Purport: Kashyapa Muni advised his wife not to go out onto the street unless she was well decorated and well dressed. He did not encourage the mini skirts that have now become fashionable. In Oriental civilization, when a woman goes out onto the street, she must be fully covered so that no man will recognize who she is. All these methods are to be accepted for purification. If one takes to Krishna consciousness, one is fully purified, and thus one remains always a transcendental to the contamination of the material world. No chitash prishta salila sanjayam mukta murdaja anachita samyatavak na samvita bahishcharit. After eating, you should not go out to the street without having washed your mouth, hands and feet. Should not go out in the evening or with your hair loose, nor should you go out unless you are properly decorated with ornaments. Should not leave the house unless you are very grave and sufficiently covered. So the Kashyapa Muni is advising his wife how to perform the yajna. This yajna, Pumsavana yajna. This particular yajna is meant to please the Supreme Lord. Now, she was very resentful to the Devas, especially Indra, who had come and went to Lord Brahma complaining, had more or less had arranged that her sons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, were killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So she indirectly blamed Indra. As far as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is beyond the world. But she was thinking he was beckoned by the Devas, headed by Indra. So she had that resentment to Indra, and now she pleased her husband and served the husband Kashyapa Muni, a very great rishi. She pleased and served him very nicely. He was very satisfied with her, and then she asked him for a blessing that she may get a son that was powerful enough to kill Indra. So Indra, of course, a very powerful deva, the king of the gods, very, very powerful, who can kill Indra, certainly not any ordinary mortal man of the earth, what to speak of other devas. He is so powerful, so who can kill? So therefore she knew, being intelligent, she knew that it had to be a very, very special son who would come to be powerful enough to kill Indra. So she asked her husband. She knew also that her husband was very powerful, Rishi. He could grant desires because of his advanced, elevated position. And mystic, we were just reading, I think in Sydney, was Kadama Muni and Devahuti. Kadama Muni, by his mystic cities, created an aerial mansion that could fly through the sky, and he took his wife on so many pleasure trips. He was just a rishi, a poor rishi living in the forest, just very simply, but because he was now married to Devahuti, he thought that to make something nice for her. So he used his mystic powers to be able to create that situation. So Kashyapa Muni, also very, very advanced, and Kashyapa is one of the direct sons, if I remember correctly, one of the direct sons of Lord Brahma. And so he had a very elevated position. And really, so therefore, Diti was like the auntie of Indra, in one sense, in that social sense. So she was, because Kashyapa and Indra, and there's all that relationship there. But nevertheless, she was resentful, and so much so, and must have been burning within her, that she wanted to kill Indra. Sometimes, you get overwhelmed, even in the higher planetary systems. They are mainly in the mode of goodness, but sometimes the ignorance and the passion becomes overwhelming. And also, in the back of all this, there may be some hand of the Supreme Personality of God. These are beings from the higher planetary systems. Some new bhakta asked me that when we were reading about sometimes these transgressions of great demigods like Indra became so angry on the residents of Vrindavan that he wanted to have them killed for not performing his puja, Indra puja. Now just imagine, Lord Indra gets so many pujas every day, and just a small a band of people in Vrindavan that decided, talked into it by little Krishna, not to do the Indra puja, but to worship the Govardhan. So he was so incensed, so angry, that he, Samvartaka clouds, he called for the Samvartaka, which are meant for the pralaya, for the destruction of the universe. So he called these, he just, and with lightning, and you read, we just had the Govardhana puja recently. So this is, you could say, overreaction. Overreaction. Some group of cowherds didn't do one puja to him. Of course, it was an annual thing. It was a big affair. But nevertheless, he gets so many. So he is the king of heaven. Now, these demigods, they know all things also because they're empowered to see all things. He knew. So he thought it was a very impudent and very disrespectful, and they should be punished. Well, all right, but punished to death? There's punishment and there's punishment. And he thought, I have to punish them to death because there's some Bhataka clouds and the wind, and that is meant for the killing people. And so he was like that. So he had to get his reaction. He was, of course, Krishna saved the day. And Lord Indra came and was very apologetic and bowed down before the Lord, so he was excused, and Krishna saved them. But so these are rishis, rather getting to the point of someone overreacting. So it seems here that Diti, she is overreacting, wanting to get a son. And so we earlier on at Kashyapa Muni was very distressed that he'd been asked this by his wife. But because she pleased him and he promised her any blessing because she satisfied him, by a pleasant way and her service, he promised her any blessing. And then when she came to ask for it, then she asked for that. I want you to bless me that I may have a son to be able to kill Indra. So he was very distressed about that, because he knew this is a very wrong thing, that to give the blessing to have Indra killed. I remember the story of, who was it, Vritrasura, was it, or Vrikasura, one of the, Vrikasura, the one who was worshipping Lord Shiva, and with yajna and everything, but Lord Shiva didn't appear, and then he started to cut off his own pieces of flesh from his own body to offer in the yajna. Still Lord Shiva didn't appear. I think that was Vrikasura. I remember many years before we did that drama here, we organised the drama of Vrikasura, and I was the Vrikasura. I remember playing Vrikasura. So then when there was big yajna, fire, everything like that, mantras, still Lord Shiva wasn't coming. So then he was cutting off, to go more extreme, to bring Lord Shiva, cutting off pieces of flesh, throwing in. Then he was prepared to cut his own head. He was so much in the mode of ignorance to get what he wanted. And he placed his head like that, ready to chop it. Then Lord Shiva appeared. There's, what do you want? And then I want to have the power that anyone I touch on the head, his head will break in a million pieces, like that. So Lord Shiva, he granted that request. You can do. Then he started to, why go to others? Let me just run after Lord Shiva. So he was chasing Lord Shiva all over the universe. No one could help him. And so finally he went to Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu, he tricked this Vikasura. Oh, Lord Shiva's benedictions, blessings, they never work. You don't trust them. No, he gave. He said, he is true to his word. No, you can't trust Lord Shiva. He's, and then there's a whole description in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, it's a Krishna book also. So just, if you don't believe me, just test it. Test the benediction. Test it. Did you test it yet? No, I didn't test it. Well, just test it on yourself then. Then he was so foolish, so less intelligent person, he just went like that, boom, on his own head, and boom, his head blew into a million pieces. And so in this way he was killed. So I remember doing that play, and we did like that. We I was like this, and I was putting my head, and then I fell back, and then we had one cabbage. We painted all we had one cabbage painted all red and different blood colour and everything like that, and we had it all pieces, and we threw the pieces inside. So that was the head exploding. And so this is very good. The children were all screaming, ah. And so, but anyway, the point is there. And then, of course, Lord Vishnu, he instructed Lord Shiva, be careful what benedictions you give to these different individuals. He also said many times to Lord Brahma, he said also, be careful, you want to give the benediction, be careful, because these are asuras. And you get the benediction and they want to abuse and do all sorts of destruction things. So just be careful in the future. So Kashyapa knew that this was a very bad thing that she wanted, and he blamed himself for, this whole situation. He was like that. And so, but at the same time, you probably read earlier that he thought that let me somehow or other make it in such a way, let her do one yajna, one ritual, that simultaneously she will worship the Lord Vishnu. And I believe this Pumsavana ritual is meant for actually ultimately satisfying Lord Vishnu, and so many mantras are chanted and so many things are observed and so on and so forth. We're reading some of them here. And so his idea, all right, she can do it. Let's see if she can follow everything, because there's so many requirements for following this ritual. She has to do, I think, for the whole month, isn't it? For a whole month, 1 month. Whether she can do. And he warned her, actually, that if you don't follow, there can be a very disastrous result if you follow everything nicely. And at the simultaneously, she's worshipping Lord Vishnu, so maybe she will be purified. So he was thinking like that. Simultaneously, she fulfilled her desire. She'll be very happy, at least in the meantime. She'll be thinking, I'm very happy, I'm getting what I want. And so, but long term, she's doing this for one whole month, and she's worshipping the Lord by different mantra and different procedure. So he was thinking like that. And so now he's giving some prescription, as also mentioned in the previous verses. Don't be violent, don't cause harm to others. In other words, one has to come to worship the Lord nicely, and one has to come and live the life in the mode of goodness to be able to worship the Lord nicely, and so many things to be followed. Now, in life, generally we have the Varna and Ashrama, just like we have in life. Now, there's two paths to be followed generally in the life. One is called the Svadharma, and the other one is called Sanatana Dharma. Svadharma means, what is the prescribed duty for your Varna and your Ashrama. This is very prescribed method given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead right in the beginning of the creation. Chatu Vanyam Maya Shrishtam Guna Kama Tasya Katanam Apimam Vidya Katanam Avyo. Krishna says, and you can read in Bhagavad Gita, I am the creator of this system of the Varna and the Ashrama. And so if one follows very nicely according to their nature, because the modes of nature, there's mode of ignorance, mode of passion, mode of goodness, and mixing also. So some people will be more mode of goodness with some passion, some will be more mode of passion, some will be more mode of ignorance. So according to your nature, according to the qualities, the gunas, then you will have a certain Varna, and not necessarily your birth, maybe, but we have to see your qualities. You may be born in a high Brahmin family or aristocratic family, but then we have to see your qualities after you're born. Just because you're born the son of the judge doesn't mean automatically you're judge. We have to see if you take the training and so on and so forth. You can't. No one is going to pronounce the son is also the judge. No, can't be automatically like that. So some are claiming just by the birth. And you cannot be Brahman, and maybe in your next life you can come back if you do things nicely. But not like that. Krishna says according to the guna and the karma, the modes, the qualities and the activities, qualities and activities, then it is judged. But anyway, so everyone has their prescribed duties, Svadharma, and of course Sanatana Dharma is your eternal spiritual activities, just like we have in devotional service. We have especially Bhagavat Dharma. Now in our Krishna consciousness, so we follow the two sides. We follow the Bhagavat Dharma and we follow the Panchatriki Dharma, and as given specially by Narad Muni. There's so many Pancharatras, initially explained by the Lord to Lord Brahma over the 5 nights to summarize everything. But then it's been expanded, so many Pancharatras as such, and so Narad is given very nice. So in order to help the aspiring devotee to help situate their lifestyle in the mode of goodness, which helps your spiritual activities, these things, these regulations are given. And then your Sanatana Dharma, your spiritual activities. Ultimately, at the end of the life, you're more going on the Sanatana Dharma, and the Svadharma becomes less. And then, of course, in the liberated, if one is liberated, then there'll only be Sanatana Dharma. Your eternal spiritual activities will continue on forever. But so everyone has got their Varna and the Ashram, and there's prescribed duties in each one. What is their duties for there will be general duties for all in the system of Varna and Ashrama. There will be general duties for all. But then more specific, the Brahmanas have prescribed duties, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, the Sudra, all will have some prescribed duties. And then if you're like that, it is expected you are to follow. If you want to be elevated in the human form of life and go upwards, instead of going downwards to the animal, and very easily you can go down. If you act like animal, your qualities like animal, then you will be animal in the next life. Simple mathematical formula. You act like animal, qualities like animal, in the next life you'll be animal. You like to eat all meat and flesh and blood, then your human body is not meant, you go and be a tiger or something like that. That it likes to eat the meat, flesh and blood. So God will arrange. So instead of going down, you can go up. Now, the going up means Varna and Ashram. So now, generally for the most people, Varna and Ashram. And so here we see Kasyapa is giving some directions to his wife, what not to do. There is a what to do and then what not to do. So here he's saying, don't go out in the street without having washed your mouth, hands and feet. Of course, from the hygienic point of view, in the Western countries maybe this is not so much. Hardly anyone washes their mouth out after eating in the Western culture, isn't it? In the Western culture, and even now in Indian culture is becoming more. They don't follow these things, but even for hygienically, especially we just had the COVID, or of course it's still there, but we how much the health professionals were pushing on these things, and because how everything can spread so quickly. You don't wash your hands properly, you don't wash your mouth properly. All these things are just hygienic and cleanliness. And so it's very well known. So they were pushing on that because practically before hardly anyone was doing. After eating, after, putting things in your mouth, and, after going to the bathroom, then you have to wash yourself. Now here also, so this is hygienic. It also puts one, now cleanliness is next to the godliness. This is an old saying. Cleanliness is next. So when one is clean in so many ways, washing the body, Prabhupada says in the 12th, rather it said in the 12th canto that, Prabhupada one time said that to be clean in the Kali Yuga, as the Kali Yuga progresses, that'll be a very revolutionary thing. People think you are a crazy fellow if you are just saying, well, you have to wash your mouth after eating. Oh, yeah, crazy fellow, what is this? You have to wash your hands after going to the bathroom. What for? What is a crazy thing? But so people will be thinking like that. It's just someone who says like that is crazy fellow. So it'll be a very revolutionary thing to take the bath, to take the bath. One devotee told me, he was from cold country. He said we used to take bath once a week. Once a week. We didn't take every day bath, just once a week. It's not very good. Not very good for hygiene. Not very good for your health. I said, but somehow or other, it was too cold to take a bath, and they were they were more poor family. So it also cost money, so they didn't take any bath, just bath, once a week. So actually, according to Shastra, and also Prabhupada was very strong on this, but always remain clean. Clothes clean. Prabhupada he was so what we call paka. Paka means very suchi. Paka means like first class, paka. And suchi, very suchi. He would wear clean clothes all the time. He would have when he have a bath, he'd change his cloth. We saw he'd change his clothes, like he'd have his bath in the afternoon. He would wear new clothes again. This is Brahmana level. This is what's Brahmana level. Brahmana level is a high level of all these things. And so Prabhupada was like that, high level. And always clean, washing them out. And also mentioned here, interestingly, washing the feet. Now we know after walking in the old days, they used to just walk everywhere, sometimes barefoot, so before you go in the house, you wash your feet. That's just. Or now we take off our shoes, but in the Western culture, take off your shoes, what for? Because you're walking outside, or maybe all sorts of dogs still, everything, you're going to walk inside with the shoes. It's crazy fellows saying like that. We don't take the shoes off. But in many cultures, Japan culture, Asian culture, so many culture, Indian culture, so many culture, they take their shoes off. They don't go inside with shoes. If they have shoes inside, it's just shoes for inside. You can do like that, So this is all clean. So clean body, clean clothes, taking regular shower. For it said for the grihastha, at least one shower bath daily. For the grihastha, and for the brahmachari at least 2, must be 2, morning and night. It said for the sannyasi must be 3. Always very clean. So cleaning the body, cleaning the clothes, all clean clothes. You have the shower, you put dirty clothes again. What's the use? So cleaning the body, and also you feel much better after washing and everything like that, isn't it? The health is improved. And of course, in the beginning days as young brahmachari, we used to take cold showers here. I remember here, or even before here in the previous temple, we were taking in the middle of, you all know, in Melbourne in the middle of winter, very cold. But the brahmachari, Hare Krishna, we'll run down cold shower. I knew the trick. You have to put the shower on very hard, so then it's like a waterfall. And then the strength just numbs you to the cold. So we used to, for many years, many years, we used to. And actually, later on, we found out it's very good for the health. Very good for the health if you can take. You go and you take the cold. It gets the whole circulation going very quickly. Of course, for Prabhupada, we had the warm water. He said, I am old man. That will be like shock for me. Maybe I'll die. So maybe the old people, someone's sick. But these days, of course, we don't push on that point. We have all different facilities. But, these things were done. These things were done. So here we see, he's saying to her, don't go out without washing. In the Varnashrama system are very reserved as far as that's concerned. And so their hair is always nicely kept, not just loose and looking wild, because when you look like that, you attract the attentions of the bhutas. And there's Kachari, there's witches also. Witches are very looking like that. They're looking like that. So if you go looking like that, you attract their attention. They come there. Oh, here's one of us. So there's all sorts of subtle things going on, especially if you go at the wrong time and you're not dressed properly, unclean state. This attracts the attention of the subtle beings, especially in the mode of ignorance. Not only that, it attracts the attention of other human beings in the mode of ignorance. Now, one has to cultivate mode of goodness. So whether you're at home or whether you're going out, especially you're going out in the public, you have to show the mode of goodness. So he wanted her to stay in the mode of goodness while performing this ritual for the whole month. You have to stay in the mode of goodness and don't do these things. Don't go out in the evening and at a certain time. In the Sandhya periods, don't wear nice clothing, sufficiently covered, representing the goddess of fortune. Prabhupada makes a point here about in the Oriental civilizations, they cover themselves up and you don't even know, what they look like. This is in some culture, in Muslim culture is the same. They cover, what is that, burqa, and they're covering, what is that, the veil they have, isn't it? You don't even see their face. So that is another thing. One can go to that length even. But of course all these rituals are there. Now Prabhupada does make the point here that when one is in Krishna consciousness, it's not so essential to follow all these things because one is automatically already following nice regulations as far as I said, Panchatriki Marg and Bhagavat Marg. And also they're chanting Hare Krishna mantra just like the devotees chanting. They're being purified. Now, what's mentioned here now, in the washing of the hands, if you're in Brahmana especially, it's still being done, especially I see in the South Indian Brahmins, Tamil Brahmins and all the South Indian Brahmins, some of them are very strict. And when they, after eating, they wash their mouths, they wash their hands, they wash their feet, and then they chant mantras. They chant mantras to please the demigods, to please Lord Vishnu, because actually it is considered that eating is just for yourself. It is a gratification. So to purify yourself from that gratification, the strict Brahmins, they would wash everything and they would chant mantras facing in certain directions. There's certain directions you have to face, chant some mantras, and with your head bowed like this. So then all these rituals are there. But now Prabhupada makes the point here that for a devotee, we don't have to worry so much about these things. But of course a devotee also knows, and why don't we have to worry? Because we're in the Krishna consciousness and we're pleasing the Supreme Personality of God. So there's no need to separately please the different devas. They are automatically pleased because they are also parts and parcels of God, and they are also worshipping God. So when God is pleased, they are pleased. So no need to separately. So if we are worshipping God, your chanting is on, and the devotee is always chanting. So no need to separately chant mantras at the time of after eating, after the time of after the Brahmins, after they go to the bath, they also chant mantras. After they bathe, everything, they chant some mantras to purify themselves. So many things you could do, unlimited amounts. One time someone said to Prabhupada, he went away from the Krishna consciousness, and Prabhupada said, why you went away? Oh, Prabhupada, I think there's too many rules. No. Just the problem was you stopped chanting very nicely, and actually there's not so many. If I were to tell you all the rules, you would just faint. What is all the rules? I give you just some of the rules that Rupa Goswami has summarized in Nectar of Devotion. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, isn't it? The Nectar of Devotion. It's just summarized. I think Bhanu Maharaj has done more translation of the bigger one. So Hari Bhaktivedanta. So many shastras are there, Dharma shastras, and so many shastras. There's so many rules to follow, and that's for the people in the world. They're following Varnashrama, and they're trying to elevate themselves. It's very nice. As much as they can do is very beneficial. They're going to elevate. But one who comes to be Vaishnava, and one who is very serious devotee, sincere devotee, sticking in Krishna consciousness, then they don't have to worry about all these things so much. We're very lucky that we can just do the chanting. Just simple thing, just chanting. How much benefit there can be. It's so powerful. So powerful. You don't have to worry after you eat. And the other thing is that after you eat, what are you eating? It's Krishna Prasadam. Krishna Prasad. So it's not, you're honoring Krishna Prasad is the mercy of the Lord. It's not just ordinary food. So, the people will take ordinary food, they have to wash everything, do some mantra and think they have to purify themselves after eating. So, but we're eating the Krishna Prasad. So different situation. After eating, of course, for health and for keeping clean, we're also washing the mouth. We're also washing the hands. We also, if you can wash the feet. But, sometimes not possible. In the cold climates, you have to take the socks and the shoes, you have to wash the feet again. It's not always practical. But nevertheless, as much as possible, at least hands and mouth and hands, very, very important. And put you in the mode of goodness. And so we follow some things. So as mentioned here. And then when as far as dressing, we don't have to worry about what is the fashion of the day. Just like I'm just wearing same clothes every day. I remember one young child, one boy, he said to me, "Maj, don't you ever change your clothes?" Of course, because he saw me same clothes every day, he thought I must be wearing same clothes. I said, yes, I'm wearing in the similar, but they are being washed. I have many different sets. So then one is used as washing, and then you take the other one, and so on. So I had to explain, but in his mind, oh yeah, Maj must be wearing same clothes all the time. But then it's one good thing though, when before you're a devotee, you have to worry about the fashion, or in the fashion, you have to spend so much money on clothes. Oh, it's unbelievable. You can spend half your wages on clothes. And just, this thing is a fashion from 5 years before. If I go like that wearing this thing, the girls will laugh. Oh, you're wearing the old fashion, they're laughing. You keep your hair different. No one's wearing their hair like that. You're old fashioned. They're all laughing. Well, we don't have to worry, because when we dress, we are dressing as devotees. We're dressing as devotees, and when we dress, we're representing our Guru, and we're representing Radha and Krishna. So we dress as devotees. So we remind ourselves we are devotees, and we're representing them, so we dress ourselves very nicely. So one should always look very nice as a devotee. So that's the reason there. So we, just like here, Kashyapa Muni, he's saying that you should look very nice. You should be very reserved, very grave. Now, grave means, if you look in the Nectar of Ocean, means not just with sullen face, although it can be like that. It means you're just focusing on, you're not talking prajalpa, you're not talking nonsense. That's being grave, actually. So when one goes out, the ladies are very reserved. And so, it's a tapasya. It's a tapasya, but you're doing it for your elevation. In a short-term suffering, you could say, short-term austerity, but long-term benefit. Others, they want short-term, enjoying and continuing as long as possible, although it comes and goes all the time. So we are doing it just for our own purification. So he's saying this to his wife. Of course, in those times, she's a wife of the Brahmana. She had to be very careful when she went out. Don't break any of these things. Sufficiently covered. Prabhupada talks about the fashion, the mini skirts, or whatever the fashion is for men. We don't have to worry these things. Ladies don't have to worry. What is the latest fashion? Just on a practical level, as I said, it takes away so much anxiety. Don't have to spend so much money. And the men, of course, men generally don't care so much about what is the fashion, but nevertheless, we can just wear the dhoti and kurta. Of course, if you're going to work, and then you have to wear appropriate clothing. So that's your svadharma. But generally speaking, as dress as devotee, that is so nice. So Prabhupada, again, on this point, he stresses that when one becomes devotee, he says here, if one takes to Krishna consciousness, one is fully purified. These are all these things that Kashyapa is saying, they're meant to purify her, so she can do this yajna. But if one takes to Krishna consciousness, one is fully purified, and then one always remains transcendental to the contamination of the material. Because if you're living in the world, you're going to be contaminated so many ways, so therefore you have to do these purificatory things. But if you're always in the Krishna consciousness, you'll always be purified, and you'll always be transcendental, you'll be unaffected. It's like an antiseptic thing. Antibiotic thing. You take that thing as like an immune thing. And so, but you have to stay in the Krishna consciousness. If you go out, then again it will come in. So if we stay in the Krishna consciousness, we don't have to worry about these other things, because they're quite onerous. As I said, there are many thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of things you could do for the ritual. But luckily in Krishna consciousness, And who can do all these rituals? There are some who are very strong, and they maybe in India, some good Brahmins, that's very good, they are very strict. But even them, they are doing everything, and they do something wrong, then there can be some reaction. So better to take up the Krishna conscious path. This will put you on the high level with just a very simple thing. All right, I'll read this verse again. No chishta sprishta salila sanjayam mukta murdaja anacha tasamyata vak na samvita bahishcharit. After eating, you should not go out to the street without having washed your mouth, hands and feet. You should not go out in the evening or with your hair loose, nor should you go out unless you are properly decorated with ornaments. You should not leave the house unless you are very grave and are sufficiently covered. Maybe we've got enough time for one question. I went a little bit over today. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. So we see that in our Krishna consciousness also there are so many rules and regulations. I mean, whatever minimum is there. After some time it feels like, these rules and regulations become very mechanical and superficial, and it's not getting anywhere. We're not getting able to correlate what we want to achieve and why we are doing what. So how do we keep up motivation?
Well, as I said, Bhagavat Marg and Panchatriki Marg, and all the rules and regulations are there, and then you have your books like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Hari Bhakti Vilas, and all these are there to help you stay in the mode of goodness. And so, yeah, definitely, they're like a more mechanical means to regulate your body and your mind and so on. And it will become mechanical unless you're chanting. And that's what Prabhupada said to that devotee. Now, the problem was your chanting went down, or you weren't chanting properly. You weren't chanting, your chanting is not very high-level chanting. Maybe you're chanting, keeping offences, maybe you're doing so many different things, not attentive chanting, neglecting things. So then if you're feeling very mechanical, because these things will always be there, all the rules and regulations, but when you're in the, nicely getting the param drishtva, by the chanting and seva and all these activities, then the higher taste so high that these rules, they seem insignificant, you won't even notice them, because you're getting such taste. So if the rules and regulations, which are mechanical things, and that means you have to increase on the other side of your Sanatan Dham or your Bhagavat Marg as devotees follow. Your hearing, the chanting, remembering, all these serving, seva is very important. You have to increase, and the quality has to increase also. So then you have to just analyze, what am I not doing that I could do a lot better, you have to analyze and then increase. And you can increase the quantity, or you can increase the quality. And so this will be very helpful, and you'll find after time, if you're just patient, you'll find that you'll start again. But sometimes when we commit offence especially, it may be that we're feeling a little bit down in our devotional service because of that offence. And there's one story I told, where was it? I told in Canberra, that there's one story of Rupa Goswami. He was sitting in his bhajan kurti, and a sage passed by. Now, he was sitting in deep absorption thinking of Radha Krishna, and he was thinking of a funny pastime that Radha and Krishna had, and he was laughing. Now, this sage was walking past, he walked a little bit funny because of he had some disability. So the sage thought that he was laughing at him, so he felt offended. But he didn't say anything, and he went. And so later on, Rupa Goswami spoke to his brother Sanatana, and he said, I'm feeling my ecstasy in devotion is not the same as usual. I feel it has gone down. What is the cause? What is your opinion of the cause? Well, maybe you committed offence or something like that, and knowingly or unknowingly you did something. So then Rupa Goswami devised a plan. He said, I'm going to have a big festival feast, and with nice prasad, and I'll invite everyone in the area to this. But I'll pay special attention who doesn't come. Who doesn't come? So then he saw that there was one who didn't come there. So then he thought, maybe I committed some offence against him. And so then he went there and he begged forgiveness. He didn't know what, and of course that was accepted by it. And then after that, because he rectified the situation, then he began to feel his former ecstasy as was before. So sometimes we're not feeling, it may be a reaction, And you read in the Shastras, this is up to the Lord. He gives the reaction, and it's up to the Lord's will how long you get the reaction. So it could be a combination that, it could be a combination you're just neglectful, you're not, quality is not so good, so yeah, it could be all these things. So then you have to increase that side. And then the other mechanical things won't seem so mechanical anymore. All right, Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Go Premanandi. Hare Hare Bo.